Hey folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. This will be a very special live interactive if anyone's out there happening to be watching in live time. The movie I saw tonight was Anyone But You. You might be saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, you're not crammed up into your car. You're not doing this in your car as usual. Well, I happen to be in a different town. I'm visiting friends, family of friends for, Christmas time. Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. And I'm actually staying here in Inverness, Florida. Very nice town. And, once again, this Regal movie app, it's really nice when you can just push a couple of buttons, find out where the local movie theater is. I was able to catch the last show of the night, the 10 p.m. Screening of this movie, Anyone But You. And you might be saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, what's the movie about? Should we go see it? Should we go not? I mean, it really depends on your mood. This is a romantic comedy. If you don't like romantic comedies, you won't like this one. If you do like romantic comedies, there's a good chance you'll like this one, but you might not. So I'll get into some of the dirty details. If it's a date night, if you happen to be on a date, probably a good date movie. It's light. There's a lot of stuff in this, getting into the spoilers now. How did I even know about this movie? I had seen the trailer or the preview a few times. And when I saw this preview, I was not familiar with this actress, okay? So this young lady, Sydney Sweeney is her name. I basically saw her in these trailers, and I didn't recognize her. And I recognized the guy from Maverick, Top Gun Maverick. But this woman I never saw before, and I was thinking, wow, is she an Instagram model? Is she someone from the sports world? Is she like a famous women's soccer player? I mean, who is this person? I guess I had missed out on the phenomena of Sydney Sweeney from the show Euphoria, I believe it's called, an HBO show. I never saw it. I guess there was some controversy with that series because she was playing a character that was still in high school and had a lot of sex and nudity. And people were kind of upset that a young character, although the actress was not of that age, but the character was, people were upset at all the sexuality and so forth. So I haven't seen the show, but that's what I read up upon about this actress. So she's a trained actress. I believe she's only 26 years old, but here she is starring in this movie, starring in this TV show. And she's also listed as an executive producer. If you're out there and you're commenting on Twitter or Facebook, by the way, if you do want to have a comment for me to respond to, you have to go to the YouTube channel. You actually have to click over, just so you know, because a lot of times people make all these comments on Facebook and I don't see them until later. So if you are out there watching, because I see a few people are watching, if you're making your comments, you have to hop over to One Mike Messier YouTube channel. So I thought this woman, just to be very blunt, was really hot, gorgeous. I mean, in the trailer even, they show her in this bikini, unbelievable body. That's why I kind of thought she was a soccer player or a volleyball player, but she's not. She's an actress. And, the guy who's in this movie, if you saw Maverick, you know who I'm talking about. He was kind of like the modern day Val Kilmer character, like the modern day Iceman. He plays his role well. He's like a cool, calculated guy, and now they're trying to push this guy as basically he feels like he's the next McConaughey type. So this movie overall, it had a lot of shades of like late 90s, but more like 2005 type of romantic comedy. Like you could easily, take out Sydney Sweeney and this dude, whatever his name is. It might be Ben Powell. It might be his name. You take them out and you put in, your Reese Witherspoon or your Renee Zellweger or your even a perfect person, a generation ago for this movie would be Sandra Bullock. Julia Roberts could have done this in her sleep. I mean, all these women that we used to see as the romantic comedy girls of the moment. Jennifer Aniston. I mean, this is something that Jennifer Aniston could have done. And you could just kind of mix and match, and McConaughey definitely would have been the stud boy for this thing a generation ago. And so that's kind of where these two actors are at right now in their career. They're doing something fun. They're doing something light. in theory, this is kind of a Christmas movie because a wedding is the centerpiece of this movie. The wedding takes place on December 22nd. Kind of surprising that they didn't maximize that, meaning they didn't put a Christmas hat on this movie. They didn't make this a Christmas movie at all, really, because there's no mention of Christmas, although there's a wedding invitation. It says December 22nd. So you'd think that they'd tie that in somehow. And possibly this movie was released nationwide on December 22nd of this year, 2023. That would make sense. But anyway, they don't get into the Christmas thing at all. Maybe a lost opportunity there for the filmmakers to cash in on a holiday film. Let's see what else. So there is a wedding in this movie. It is a lesbian wedding, which is very exciting. And, they don't really, aside from like one little thing at the beginning where one of the fathers of one of the brides, pretends to be upset. This is one of those movies that's so politically correct that nobody bats an eye. It's a lesbian movie or a lesbian marriage. It's just part of the scenery. So I mean, that's evolution. That's progress for equality and all that good stuff. But it might be nice if there was like one asshole character who kind of curmudgeons about it or like raises an eyebrow or something goofy like that. I think you could still get a laugh out of something like that, out of like the non-politically correct character, even if it's as a humorous whipping post for non-political correctness. I still think there's some humor there, with the grandparent who's confused, or there's two brides, so something like that. I think is still appropriate, still funny, even in this modern time. Also, another thing, it's not the beautiful woman, the centerpiece here, Sydney Sweeney. She's not the one getting married. It's her sister, who's one of the lesbians. And then she's marrying a woman who is the sister of the best bud of Ben's character, the man character. So, and here's another thing where it gets a little tricky, because I don't want to sound like a asshole saying this stuff, but just to be honest, if you go back a generation or so, there was kind of like the movies like The Best Man, or When Stella Got Her Groove Back. There'd be these kind of ensemble African-American or black cast movies, and then you would have like the Sandra Bullock and the Julia Roberts, their romantic comedies, My Best Friend's Wedding and stuff like that. So you had like this kind of unofficial separation. And now, once again, it's progress, it's evolution. They're trying to get people to see every movie. So, I mean, they kind of mix everybody up, which I think is good. But I think in this particular case, what I was thinking, and they still could have done this even with the cast they had, if the second lesbian was the sister of Ben's character. So basically, the meet cute, the couple in the center, the Sydney Sweeney character, I think her name is B. Her real name is Beatrice, but she goes by B. If her character and the guy, their sisters are actually marrying each other, instead of the next generation of adding the friend element, I think you would like raising the stakes. Basically, there's this old street writing cliche, if you read Sid Field or Robert McKee, raise the stakes, raise the stakes. Well, if the meet cute is that the guy and the girl, they both have lesbian sisters that are marrying each other, and now they're going to be in-laws, and they still have this romantic comedy. To me, that's more involved, that's more intriguing, but they kind of water that down by having this extra layer of detachment with this friend. Now, I guess you could say that because of the way the movie is structured and blah, 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 that they had to do that, which is fine. But I'm just looking for ways to make this movie more intense. A lot of this movie is just good-looking rich people in Australia having a wedding, and the storyline of Ben and will they or won't they? It's the same old crap we've seen in a bunch of romantic comedies, and we know the ending to these fucking things. They always end up as a couple. They always end up kissing, and there's hopefulness and all that horse shit. So, it's kind of like we know where we're headed, and we just take the ride to get there, and you have some nice scenery. Now, I did see this in a local theater. I'll be honest with you. It was a nice theater. but no, reclining seats, which is probably good because I stayed awake the whole time, at least for this movie. And it wasn't the best possible screen or sound. I think if you saw this movie, in a Cinemark or an AMC, it'd probably look even better because a lot of the stuff, the scenery of Australia, the koala bear, there's a nice koala bear moment. A lot of this stuff probably would look really awesome on the best possible screen and all that good stuff. And most movies, across the board, pretty much, most movies look better. The better the screen, the better the sound. It goes across the board. There was a few inconsistencies with the male character. I think the guy's name is Ben Powell, the actor. He's a good actor, and to his credit, the guy is all jacked up. He's all ripped. They do make a lot of points about him being both older and taller than Sydney Sweeney, and they reference this a couple of times, And if you're familiar with Hollywood filmmaking at all, and how Tom Cruise is like 5'1" or something like that, there's always this thing in Hollywood that the leading men are short, or they're on the shorter side because the actresses are typically short, and they want to match them up in the same frame. So in this movie, there is about maybe a foot difference. But it's kind of awkward that the two characters are pointing out their height difference so often. It kind of feels like, the cinematographer or the director was trying to give them himself an excuse for some of the shots. It was a little too self-aware. I don't think people, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think people, well, maybe they do, pointing out, oh, you're taller than me. I don't think that's like a running thing as much as this movie would have it be like, oh, we have a height difference. And there's even a point where the female character B, he says something to her like, you're so short. And she says, well, you're not tall enough to call me short. It's just weird. It's very on the nose or very self-aware. And it feels like they're actors talking about their height in the fucking film rather than characters actually having an exchange. I just found it distracting. Maybe nobody else would catch that or be annoyed by it, but I fucking was. What else? A lot of swearing in this movie. That's interesting. I think just society in general no longer cares. People just, I swear all the time. And I think it makes me more genuine. And I guess they use that in this movie as well. There's a funny little moment for those of you that have seen it where they're on the airplane and this random old guy says, what the fuck? And that was kind of a funny thing. Sydney Sweeney, early in this movie, it kind of cools off a bit, but early in the film, once in the bathroom, the ladies' room of a high-end coffee shop, she has this moment where she kind of dribbles water on the front of her pants, and it looks like she had a little accident. And then she tries to take off her pants and put them in the hair dryer of the bathroom. And then, 10 minutes later, she's on the airplane having this funny thing where she's trying to steal a cookie, and she ends up straddling the guy, and he's got the sleeping thing on or whatever. So I think they're trying to push her as a physical comedian, and she's actually an executive producer on this thing. So I guess she's trying to stretch into she's trying to show look, she's not just a hot babe, she can do physical comedy. She did it okay. I mean, I think that, to be quite honest, a woman that attractive is going to have a hard time getting laughs. And I think women like Whitney Cummings, for instance, is very funny. I find her funny anyway. And I think, she talks about this stuff, that it's hard for a woman to be both hot and funny. And so they really, not they as in every single one, but try hard, you know what I mean? So I don't know if she's not quite at Lucy Ball level yet. I don't know if she ever will be, but I mean, she's trying. There's also some things about this movie that I felt were very cliche. I mean, you basically end up having this ensemble cast. You have about a dozen characters bouncing off each other once we get to Australia for this wedding. And the buddy character, so the B's sister's bride, her brother is the friend to our guy Ben there. And the brother, that dude, that character to me felt very 90s cliche, he's always walking around. Hey dog, I know you love this girl, dog. He's calling his buddy dog the whole time. It felt very, 1997 Puff Daddy, hey dog, I don't know if people don't really call each other dog anymore. Maybe I'm missing out on the fun. Like maybe there's a bunch of people who sit around and these guys have these groups and they call each other dog, but it felt very dated. And there was some times throughout this film where, like I said, it felt like a 2005 romantic comedy. Well, guess what, folks? Sometimes screenplays sit around for 10 or 20 years. I have screenplays that are sitting around that I haven't had made. And I look at them now and I see things that are dated, in my own scripts. And I know that other screenplays take a long time to get made. I heard something, I was watching a YouTube video, Catch Me If You Can, sat around for 20 years. Like, I guess it was Spielberg bought the rights to the movie Catch Me If You Can. And that script sat there for 20 years until he could make the movie. So I think in this, it does feel like this script might have been written 20 years ago. I could be wrong. I mean, I could be way off. I mean, for instance, what I did like about this movie, another thing that I did like, there wasn't a preponderance of cell phone usage. And that's become such a crutch in movies these days where the characters like, oh, I'm going to text. I just don't find texting, really phone calls at all, but texting especially is not cinematic. And I think a lot of screenwriters and filmmakers now, they rely on texting on screen. And that's the worst, when you're seeing this movie, even the 50 Shades of Grey movie used texting a lot. To me, it's just not cinematic. It's a crutch. It's weak. And when they put the little text blurbs on the screen, I don't like it. I really just think it's horseshit. And it's laziness on the behalf of whoever filmmaker uses text to convey how the characters are interacting. I think that's just a weakness in a film. And, people out there might be saying, well, what does it matter? That's how people communicate. Well, it's not cinematic, okay? Like having typing on the goddamn screen and little speech blurbs, it's not cinematic. We have enough of that stuff in real life. Why would you bother to put that in a movie? So they did it. So in this particular movie, Anyone But You, there's a lack of texting. There's a lack of cell phone calls. There's a lack of that type of thing, which I thought was good. Once we get on this island, it is like we have our little 12-person ensemble. And of course, there's other characters from the island that bounce in and out. I keep saying island, but it's Australia. I don't know if Australia is an island or not. But once they get over there, we have this nucleus of a family type of thing, two families coming together. And then we have like this, our main story as the film audience is, our will they, won't they, which of course we know they will, and then the whole device that you see in the trailer really emphasizes this, thing of the movie, is that these two people, in theory, are pretending to like each other. In the girl's case, to turn off her ex-boyfriend because she thinks of her ex-boyfriend as, he's not, he was just around for too long. There wasn't a spark, blah, blah, blah. He's too nice of a guy, in female logic. And then for our buddy Ben there, his ex-flame, who's an Australian woman, of course, she's got this new, fuck buddy, stud muffin, Outback Jack type surfer boy. And he's trying to get her back, and she's trying to scare off her ex-boyfriend. So the two people have different positions on their exes. So one's trying to turn off the ex, and one's trying to turn on the ex. And I thought that was interesting. And then in the meantime, these side characters, there's an incident with a firework or a firecracker that it looks like the two of them, are Ben and B, are going to ruin the wedding. So those characters, the lesbian couple and their friends and their parents or whatever, they are trying to get these two to hook up because they have the feeling, the collective feels that if these two people fuck, then they won't ruin the wedding. So, and then there's this whole running gag that this movie, and I'm not familiar very much with Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, the Bard, as I hate when theater people go, oh, the Bard, like they're friends with fucking William Shakespeare. They're not, okay? He's been deceased for a while. But these theater assholes would always have you think that old Willie Shakespeare is their buddy. So there's all these references to Much Ado About Nothing. I can't remember if I've ever seen that one on stage or whatnot. but I'm assuming that this movie is inspired by that or a modern day telling, and I guess it is. But I'm not familiar enough with Much Ado About Nothing to catch all the references. The buddy, the friend there, the friend character, the one that calls everybody dog, him and Brian Brown, who plays the father of one of the brides, they have a thing where they're kind of like the chorus. Was it Guildenstern and Hisenkratz are dead, or whatever the fuck, from Hamlet, the two grave diggers, like the characters that are like the funny guys that talk off in the corner. Guildenstern and Herbowitz are dead, or whatever the fuck. But those guys are in this movie because they're kind of like doing a little comedy bit. So I did catch what I wasn't catching. I caught that I was missing some very enlightened Shakespeare reference. I wouldn't say it went above my head; it went to the side of my head because I just couldn't remember. I didn't know that I had to get the fucking Cliff Notes for Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing before I went to see this movie. I wasn't expecting to be so challenged by a Sydney Sweeney, Ben Powell romantic comedy, but I guess I'm missing out. The other thing that they put in this thing, there's one of these songs, like, look, I haven't liked a whole lot of music from the last 10 or 20 years, but that song, Unwritten, you've heard this song a million fucking times. It's on, radio that I don't like. You go to the coffee house. It's the type of song that you'd hear in Whole Foods, just playing all the time. And that song is like the big song for this movie. Like, they play it 3 or 4 times. It's a cute song. At the end credits, they played this song, and they did one of those gimmicks where when they were filming the movie, because when you film a movie, you basically get all your shots at each location at a time. So when they did this, and to their credit, they thought in advance, they shot little scenes of the actors singing that song. So then at the end of the movie, you have this pretty intricate end credit sequence of, actors slash characters still in character singing this song. Now, here's the problem. I think that song is one of those songs that a lot of people like, but I don't. It's just one of those songs, to me, it's saccharine. I don't enjoy that song. So I don't hate it. I just don't want to hear it. So hearing that song 3 or 4 times, I know that in a sense it's me, but in a sense it's not. I just find it to be an annoying, sugar-coated song that has no depth to it. I mean, it's not a dog shit song. It's not the worst song in the world, but I don't particularly like it. And just the fact that it's played over and over again, it annoyed me. And I know that, that's just one of those things, and I kind of feel like with this movie, this is the thing. I was going to say this 10 minutes ago, but I interrupted myself. The Ben character has a few things that I felt were inconsistent. And first one is that they pull a Titanic. They have this whole little comedic homage to the movie Titanic, which I thought was fine. I thought that was kind of cute. But then, unfortunately, the girl falls into the ocean from the boat, and Ben jumps in and rescues her. And it's been established before that he can't swim. So suddenly he can swim. And then there's another scene where the same guy, first it said that he can't swim. They're supposed to swim to a boat together. He can't swim. She's got to pull him to the boat to get the sunglasses. But then he jumps in the ocean to rescue her, which proves his valor. And then he teaches her father how to dive. So it's like he can't swim at some points. He can swim at other points. And he's a diving instructor. But at the same time, he's afraid to swim. And then he has this thing where to get to Australia from the mainland, and I don't know if it was supposed to be New York City, or I think it was just any town USA that they start this thing. When Ben and everybody else fly from the USA to Australia, he takes like a really long flight. They say it's a 16-hour flight. So he takes a 16-hour air flight. And then around this time, 2/3 of the way through the movie, when he jumps off the fucking boat to rescue her and they get picked up by the helicopter, suddenly he is over his fear. Like, suddenly he has a fear of heights or a fear of flying. and she has to sing the song because that's his Serenity song. So everything just felt very convenient, and like we're just taking kind of the piss out of this male character because the guy, and he's a pretty jacked up guy, good looking guy. So we have to give him some weaknesses. So he can't swim sometimes, he can swim other times, and he can take a 16-hour flight to Australia, but then magically he's afraid of flying. So they're just kind of throwing, these are the inconsistencies that most of the people, like for instance, tonight there was actually 4 other people in the theater. They all looked like young college women. I'm sure that they don't think in terms of this. They're not analyzing this goddamn romantic comedy and pointing out the character flaws or the character inconsistencies. Like, okay, how come he's swimming in this scene, and then he can't swim in this scene? And how come if he can't swim sometimes, then how's he a diving instructor? And how can he take a 16-hour flight if he's really afraid of flying without taking a Valium? And there's also some oddball references to this guy taking pretty serious drugs. Like there's just a couple of throwaway lines of him taking like hardcore drugs at random points in his life. And I think once again, I think it's because if you look at this guy at the surface, the actor and the character, he's such a good looking, strapping man that, who has a nice apartment in this movie. So there's nothing wrong with this guy, except, he's a former drug addict, I guess. It just felt like they were throwing this shit together. I think her character of Beatrice was more realistic and more human. I could relate to it. Like she's 26 years old, she's in law school, but she doesn't really want to be a lawyer, and she's afraid to tell her parents because they've been paying for this god awful bill for however many years for her education. And to be honest, folks, I mean, this is the term that I have. I mean, don't hashtag me into oblivion, but I call this stuff, white people problems. You know what I mean? It's just, the girl who's going to law school doesn't want to go to law school. You could call it first world problems if you want to be more open-minded or whatever the fuck. But to me, it's just, she's in law school and she doesn't want to be a lawyer. But now how can she tell her parents on the weekend that her sister's getting married? She can't tell them then. It's just, it's very, Rachel Needs a Haircut of Friends, 1998. It's just such a frivolous, what a problem to have, I want to drop out of law school and figure out what I want to do with my life. But, yet I still found that I found myself relating more to her character because at least she wasn't making these references to being a drug addict out of nowhere. The other thing is that her character is supposed to be, they don't really say, but it's like in real life, I think she's only 26. And I would think Ben is the guy, whatever his name is like 36. And so they try to play that off, like they joke around a few times because he has a few wrinkles around the eyes, and they try to play off the age difference and the height difference. But I mean, to me, they didn't really have to go there on either count. They could have. Somebody gave me a nice thumbs up. Like I said, if you want to comment, you have to come over to One Mike Messier on YouTube, and if you comment, I can respond in live time. But if you're commenting on Facebook or Twitter in live time, I probably won't see it. You have to come over to the YouTube channel, click the button to make you feel good. So, and subscribe to the channel, by the way, because I'm getting all these people in real life. My friends are telling me that they love these instant movie reviews. Yet the subscriber numbers are not that great here on this channel. So, I mean, if you love the goddamn videos so much, then why aren't you subscribing? Okay. But anyway, I just felt that the Ben character felt like they were trying to chop this guy down a little bit to even him out with the young woman's confusion. And I didn't think that was necessary. Like I just, or they could have made him different in a different way, and or less of a prize or more flawed. Something. It seemed like that they were making a real point to make him less than perfect to kind of match up with her. But if to be honest, if you look at these two people, they do look pretty good together. I mean, it's basically a Barbie and Ken type of situation. So you would see these two people and you would really not take issue with them being a couple because they look like they're meant to fuck each other, quite honestly. So I don't really see why they had to dance around it. Now, speaking of which, after the big helicopter scene, I had to use the facilities. I come back and they're in the middle of this big shower scene. So I mean, I wasn't really expecting that. I thought this was more of a PG-13, PG-13 type of romantic comedy. But like, there's this hot and steamy, sex scene. So good for them. And apparently, this actress, Sydney Sweeney, defends her right to be nude, and good for her, because I guess with all this controversy on her TV show Euphoria, she's done a bunch of nude scenes, and people have criticized the show and criticized her, and she's defended her right to act in the nude. So God bless you, Sydney Sweeney. So this sexy scene was pretty sexy, quite honestly. I mean, it wasn't. Bo Derek or whoever the fuck from the 80s, but it was a little bit steamier than you see typically these days in films. And the Australian lady has her top off for about 2 seconds early in the film. So, I mean, surprisingly, there was some nudity. There's also an abundance of male nudity in this movie. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They did have this kind of really awkward shower scene with the Australian guy and our main guy, Ben. Ben shows his ass a lot in this movie. I mean, there's a scene where he's got a spider in his pants, and he, it's just a movie, right? So he pulls off his pants because he's got a spider in his pants, and rather than just pull off the pants, he throws the pants over the mountain, like. So you have to just go with it because it's a movie, but it makes no sense. Like, if you thought you had a spider in your pants, you wouldn't dramatically throw your pants over the top of a fucking mountain just to get rid of the pants. You would take the pants off and step on the spider, but you wouldn't necessarily. Well, since I've got this problem with the spider in my pants, I'm going to make my situation worse by throwing my pants over the side of a mountain. So, I mean, it's just stupid shit, you know what I mean? But so it's a lot of this stuff, for the sake of comedy, doesn't make logical sense. You have to go with it. The scene with him and the Australian dude showering together kind of ends on a weird shot. I don't know if the Australian guy is making all these euphemisms for penis, basically. He's calling it yo dolly wanker. He's doing the typical Australian character bullshit. Oh, yo one-eyed alligator, mate. He's talking about his dick, and he's making all these funny names for it. And then they kind of pan down and they show, I don't know if he was supposed to be showing his penis or showing his two thumbs like this. It was got a weird kind of unnecessary shot. I don't think the shot was funny. It was kind of gross because I'm not sure what we were looking at. If he was emulating his male parts, his Dolly Wanga or his one-eyed anteater. I don't know if he was trying to mimic that or if we saw a pretty visual scene of his genitalia. So I don't know. It was a little bit much. I thought in situations like this and throughout the film, it's like, okay, are they really just going for the female audience here because they have all this male nudity? Is this just a chick's flick? And should I even have bought a ticket? But I still did. My buddy here, Michael A.J. Norris, is chiming in. Yo, Mikey, yeah, I just saw this movie, buddy. This Anyone But You. I think it's a passable movie. It's a romantic comedy. I know that Michael A.J. Norris has a very good relationship with his lady friend, so maybe the two of you, buddy, go see this movie together. It might be a nice, sizzle me time to see the movie with your lady friend. For me, the movie was good, but it wasn't great. That's how I'd kind of say that. Out of a 5-star review, I would probably, I'm thinking, it's funny because even when the movie started in the first 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, this is a 2.5-star movie, and I think by the end of it, I think for most people, this would be a 3-star movie. For me, it's more like a 2 3/4, just because I didn't like that song. Some of these character inconsistencies that I'm pointing out were a bit much. So I think for me, it's a 2 3/4 out of 5 stars. But I think for most people, it's probably a 3.5 star. Let's see, buddy. Yeah, let's talk about movies here. We'll leave the wrestling for the wrestling channel. Marvel and DC. Do you think it takes me back? Take 2-year break. Oh, this is an interesting take. I like this, buddy. This is a good conversation. Marvel movies and DC, cinematic universe. Do you think it takes me 2-year break, bombing and box office? So should they take a 2-year break is what you're asking me? Or should you take a 2-year break from watching these films? I'm trying to figure out what exactly you're suggesting. Let's go with the should the I'm plugging my phone in here, folks, so don't mind my palm. It'll go away. There we go. I got some more juice in this thing. Should they take 2 years off? Should the filmmakers take 2 years? Not you as a audience member, as a fan, but should they? I think that's not a bad idea, and I don't know if you're telling me news or if you're speculating that they should. But if this is your idea, Michael, I would agree with you that I think that, a lot of the audience fatigue, I think is the term. I think people are probably sick of feeling inclined that they have to go see. And some of these movies have failed. I'm not sure. Black Adam comes to mind because it's The Rock, and I went to go see it, but to be honest, I fell asleep the whole time. So the one with Scarlett Johansson 3 or 4 years ago, I actually liked, was that Black Widow. I thought that was a good one. But a lot of times when like for instance, Aquaman 2, I don't remember seeing Aquaman, the first one. That actor in Mimosa or whatever the fuck his name is, for whatever reason, he doesn't do much for me. He just feels like an overinflated Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns would probably be better in some of these roles than that guy. I didn't like that guy in the Vince Vaughn Fast and the Furious thing earlier this year. The Marvel and Aquaman 2 really getting bad reviews. Yeah, that even helps me, buddy, because I don't think I'll go see it, quite honestly. I have these subscriptions to AMC and Regal and Cinemark. I could easily go see Aquaman 2, but I don't think I saw the first one. I mean, I remember when the TV show Entourage was making fun of a potential Aquaman movie, and I think that hypothetical Aquaman was probably more entertaining than this Mimosa guy. I just don't get it. I was a big Aquaman fan as a kid, like the old, Surfer Sting look Aquaman, like the traditional guy, the old school Aquaman with like the orange shirt and the green pants. And like, he had this really weird superpower of being able to, cattle fish, like, oh, he can talk to the whales, and it's a very interesting superpower, to bring into the real world. Like, this is the guy that, we got, faster than a speeding bullet Superman. We got the Flash, who's even faster than him. We got the Batman, who's a total badass. And we get the guy that talks to whales. So it's funny, you know what I mean? So I don't really know what to say about that scenario. But I mean, I think it's audience fatigue, buddy. And I think when same thing with the Star Wars. I was watching this thing about Star Wars and Disney and Star Wars. And if you just crank out all this shit trying to get money and eyeballs, which translates to money eventually, out of people, but you're not advancing the cause. I think like that Game of Thrones sequel series was kind of middling too. I didn't watch it. I didn't really watch a lot of Game of Thrones, to be honest with you. I called that show Tits and Dragons. To me, that's what the whole show was. But to other people, it lived and died by Game of Thrones. I never got the whole thing. And then they made this other Game of Thrones-esque show. And, it is what it is. And people, look, folks, I go to the movies all the time. I can tell you plenty of movies that I see that are not sequels, that are not franchise films. There's plenty of artsy movies in the mainstream cinema. People don't go to them, so when the audience complains, oh, all they do is make sequels, all they do is make DC, and all they do is make comic book movies. Actually, they don't. There's other movies that you can see, but the audience aren't buying tickets for these other movies, so it's the audience's fault. Let's see here, buddy. I did see this one, in fact. I guess you could call him a friend of mine, was a producer on this thing. The Kill Room with Uma Thurman and Samuel Jackson was a surprise, and it was good. If you have Prime Video, rent it, or Redbox, or any streaming, you rent movies, let me know your thoughts. Well, buddy, I did see that movie in the theater. It turns out, a friend of mine or an associate, Richard Switzer from Los Angeles, was a producer on that thing. So, congratulations. I did do a full Mike's Instant Movie review on the Kill Room. So I'll just cross-reference that, buddy. If you're on this channel, One Mike Messier YouTube channel, just look it up. Just put Kill Room Mike Messier review, or just look in the playlist, buddy, because I'm pretty sure I reviewed it because I saw it at the AMC Theater in Orange Park, Florida. So I did see that one, The Kill Room, and I didn't know that my friendly associate was a producer on it until the credits rolled. So The Kill Room, I did see it, buddy. I felt like it was a Pulp Fiction, and it was a reunion of two characters from Pulp Fiction, Uma Thurman and Samuel Jackson, two actors anyway, not their characters. I think I liked that movie, but I didn't love it, and I think I felt like it started strong, and then it just. Uh, you're saying Liv Morgan was in it? God, buddy, what did she play? Because I don't remember Liv Morgan being in the movie Kill Room. If this is the one about the art, I don't remember her being in it at all, buddy. But I'm not doubting what you're saying. I just don't recall Liv being in it unless they disguised her really well. Um, Emma, she was that the art, but it wasn't the art assistant. I really don't remember, buddy. I don't remember Liv being in the movie at all. Was she like the rival art dealer girl? Because there was like a rival to Uma's art dealer. Was that? I don't think that was Liv Morgan. I think I would have recognized her, but maybe I didn't, buddy. I don't know. I guess I don't really want to watch that movie again. I would watch clips to see who Liv played because they would probably trigger my memory. But when I was watching it in live time, which was earlier this year at some point, I just don't recall. She was wearing a hat. God, buddy, I'm gonna have to when I get off of here, man. I'm gonna look this up because now you got my brain thinking. I don't remember Liv. I know you're a big Liv Morgan enthusiast. I don't remember her in the movie, but good for her. Good for her. I mean, she's obviously a very perky person, and my buddy there, Switzer, is a wrestling enthusiast, and I'm sure that he would be happy to have her in his movies. So I'm not doubting you at all. I just don't recall, to be honest. But she was wearing a hat, so I guess whoever made the hat and put it on her head did a good job because they disguised her pretty well. So that's about it, folks. So I mean, if you got anything else, buddy, movie related, go ahead, throw it at me. Like I said, folks, if you do watch these reviews and you happen to catch this in live time, what you have to do is you have to hop over to One Mike Messier. If you're watching me on Twitter or whatever the fuck, Instagram, you just come over to the channel and subscribe. Do your buddy a favor. Mikey, Planet of the Apes, the new ones were great. Didn't see them, buddy. We're great. Looking forward to new one next year. Yeah, so this is the thing. I'm not a huge Planet of the Apes guy. I did see the original ones not too long ago, like within the last 10 years. That scene, I think it was the first one where he's like, what did they do? What did they do? When he's looking at the fucking Statue of Liberty. I mean, shit. That was a fucking scene. I mean, that was a great moment. So I did catch some of this Planet of the Apes. I mean, when I was a kid, there was a channel out of Boston called Channel 56, and they were always planning, like Planet of the Apes was one of their go-to movies or series because there's more than one. There's like 6, 7, or 8 of the originals. So this Channel 56 was always playing Planet of the Apes on a Saturday or Sunday, and I didn't quite get it. I was too young to understand what the fuck was going on with these apes and this planet. And then the ones, I think it's Mark Wahlberg, right? I think I just avoided the remakes. And then the original ones I have kind of gotten into, and I've watched a couple of YouTube videos about the history of the original Planet of the Apes, and I have seen maybe 2.5 or 3 of them. Let's see this, buddy. Cliffhanger 2 is coming in 2025. I'm surprised, as well as Demolition Man 2. Well, that's interesting. I mean, that's my buddy there, Wesley Snipes, that I worked with in the movie Hard Luck, and Sylvester Stallone, of course, the legend. Of those 2 movies, I mean, I would probably go see both of them. Hoping that it's still Sly in both. If it's not, if it's a deal like, they just did this Creed 3 and Stallone wasn't in it, which I thought was a little disappointing, and Rocky wasn't even mentioned. But I would go see both of these movies. I remember Cliffhanger is much better because Stallone was making a lot of bad movies around that time, and Cliffhanger was like a nice exemption from that rule. Like that was a really good one. So and I think it's overdue. I hope they're just not straight to Amazon Prime or straight to Netflix sequels. I hope they're theatrical because I think Cliffhanger 2 could be a lot of fun. And give it up for Stallone. I mean, the guy's like 70 years old and he's still doing these things. Demolition Man 2, I'd go see that as well, especially hopefully it's Snipes and Stallone. reunited. And even Sandra Bullock. Can you imagine if they could get Sandra Bullock and she could do something? That's not going to hurt her to do Demolition Man 2 with the three shells, if you remember that. Die Hard is a Christmas movie or an action movie? Well, I don't. I think it's both. I mean, I think it's an action movie first and foremost, and I think it's a Christmas movie secondary. I don't think you have to choose one. I mean, if you had to choose, I would say it's an action movie because the emphasis is on action. I mean, there's no I just saw Die Hard about 2 weeks ago on the big screen. I did a Mike's Instant movie review on that. It was great because the movie holds up really well. But I think the emphasis is really on the action and the survival. It's really a survival film, and it's a rescue movie. This guy's trying to rescue all the people that are kidnapped in this hotel, or not a hotel, but the big building. I lean to say it's an action film. If you had if you put a gun to my head, so to speak, I would say it's an action movie, but I think it can be both. I mean, is there a real Christmas lesson in this thing? I mean, I think maybe you could just make a case for valuing your spouse. I think that's kind of the message. I don't necessarily think that has to be a Christmas thing. Let's put it this way. This movie, Die Hard could have been a great movie without the Christmas element, but it couldn't have been a great movie without the action element. Without the action, without the violence, without the rescuing and the sabotage and the car crashes and the police and all that stuff, you have no movie with Die Hard. You don't have enough on the bone there for a Christmas movie, but without the Christmas stuff, you would still have a great action film. So I think that's how you do the equation. Mikey, your favorite Michael J. Fox film? You've seen mine is Secret of My Success. That's an excellent choice, buddy. Just to be a little bit different, I will say there was one that he did with Joan Jett. I'm trying to remember the title of it, buddy. I can't remember the title, but it was a Joan Jett played his sister, and they were like in a rock band together. And I think they were brother and sister. They were not a romantic couple. I think they were. There was another one too, Bright Lights, Big City, which I think is. I haven't seen that movie in forever, buddy. I haven't seen the Joan Jett one. The Secret of My Success is a fun movie. That does feel like a movie that somebody else could have done, like a Michael Broderick. I mean, I guess the de facto answer is Back to the Future, but and he does great in that. But I mean, just to be a little bit different, I'm trying to remember. Was it Light of Day or Find the Light or something with the word light in it? If you look it up real quick, buddy, Joan Jett. Michael J. Fox did this movie together. I want to say that one, but I can't. And I'm trying to remember other movie. I think he did something called Greed or Greedy People, which was kind of an ensemble thing. It had the really hot chick from the Wonder Years in it, the sister, Olivia d'Abo, who was the National Lampoon Vacations sister to Beverly D'Angelo or whatever. But Beverly d'Abo, her sister, was the pretty girl, the sister on the Wonder Years, and she was in this thing called Greed, where they're all waiting for this grandfather to die, and so forth. We lost a lot of celebrities who died that made an impact this year. When I said it was a huge loss, well, very, very touching, very nice of you to commend. We'll give them a tip of the hat, or I'm not wearing a hat, but we'll give them a tip of the water. We, of course, I don't want to get into the wrestling stuff, because on One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan channel, I did do a couple of tributes to Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt, but of course, Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt and other celebrities. What other celebrities? You're right. A bunch of celebrities did die in 2023. I'm trying to think. There were some people that died like in their 30s and stuff, I think. I mean, there were some people that died really young. If you want to name a few names real quick, buddy, go ahead. We'll give them a little tip of the hat. Or tip of the water. I'm going to wrap this up in about less than 10 minutes. I want to keep this to less than an hour. This is actually we'll say this, folks. Michael AJ, happy you're here, buddy. This is the longest ever Mike's Instant Movie Review. We're going on 50 minutes here. But give me some celebrity names that have passed away, and we'll say a nice word. The Brooklyn Nine-Nine star. Okay, buddy. Trying to remember because I didn't really watch that show. I'm thinking it was an African American male actor. I want to say he was bald and maybe had a mustache. I'm seeing a face in my mind's eye. I don't want to be disrespectful to the deceased or any of their fans or followers or family. So I'm just trying to remember. He was in The Mist. Yeah, man, the name just popped in and popped out. Yeah, I feel bad because his name just kind of popped in and popped out. And to be honest, I don't really remember The Mist or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so I'm trying to remember this guy. But I do know that a lot of people did pass away. If you give me some names, I can say a shout out to the deceased. What can you do? I mean, it's a sad world. I mean, people die every day. Yeah, Andrea Braunhauner. It's like Andrea Braunhauner. And I don't want to butcher the guy's name, man, especially because he's deceased. But if you look it up, it's a BR name. I think he was in a lot of stuff. Was he in the movie Glory? Was he? If you could look it up, I'm doing this on my phone, so I can't look it up. Adrian Braunhauner, something like that. Was he in the movie Glory way back when? Was he on the Spike Lee movie Get in the Bus? I do remember, buddy. Yeah, Adrian Braunhauner, I want to say. I think that's coming to mind. I think if I'm thinking of the same guy, I think he was in the movie Glory, and which is a Civil War movie about the 54th. And I think he might have been in the movie Get on the Bus with Spike Lee about the Million Man March. Adrian Braunhauner. I'm getting close, but I'm not nailing his name. And I wouldn't want some asshole doing a Mike Messier tribute when I'm dead, saying my name, Mike Messier, Mike Messier, Mike Musina, Michael. So I don't want to fuck up this guy's name, Adrian Braunhauner. Trying, buddy. But yeah, I do send the shout out. But if you look up his IMDb page, buddy, if you see Glory on there, then I'm thinking of the same guy. Who else you got? Who else left us too early? I mean, but you know what? Everybody dies. You know what I mean? He was in a show with Scott Bakula. Now, Scott, was it Bakula or is it? It's Scott Bakula. He was the guy from Quantum Leap, the original, correct? Yeah, man, you probably know Men of a Certain Age. I do remember that show. I think that was on TBS or TNT or one of those T channels. It was like three guys in their 40s who were basically kibitzing about how bored they were with their sex lives with their wives. And so they're all kind of looking around for younger women to cheat on their wives with, or maybe they're all divorced guys. And there was like three guys that were buddies, and one of the guys from that show was on a show, I believe, called it was on HBO. It was a sitcom. Yeah, well, I get it. He was the black guy. You know, he was probably the black guy in everything he did, I would assume, or one of the black guys. But yeah, it was the guy from HBO show Living on the Edge, or the TV, and the guy is like he's dating women and he's seeing his history in these flashback sequences. That was the show on HBO. The guy was remembering his childhood and all the black and white movies he used to see, and there was a lot of sex in that show, and there was a divorced dad. And then that same guy was in a movie with I think it was called like The Addict or The Sex Addict. He was in a movie with Muriel Hemingway, where the guy like revs up his wife and he gets his wife to agree to a menage a trois with her hairdresser. And then thank you for saving us here, buddy. Scorpions fans saving us with Andrea Bauer. Yeah, I was close. I'm probably still saying the name incorrectly. But yes, rest in peace. Yeah, so Sip of the Cup. Was he in Glory? Look that up, buddy. If he was in Glory, I'd feel very proud of myself for remembering that, because that movie's from 1989. Just do a quick cross-reference, Scorpions fans. See if Andrea was in Glory from 1989. If he was, I'd be happy. He was the guy that was the friend of the Matthew Broderick character, and then he gets pulled into the Civil War, and he's kind of demoted. Yes, In the Mist, Stephen King. But see if he was in Glory, Glory from 1989. See if Andrea was in that. Yeah, he's a young guy. So, I mean, it's sad, you know what I mean? And what can you do? You know, I mean, look, the Grim Reaper comes from us for us all at some point. We can't escape that. I mean, I was talking to a gentleman on Christmas Day, a nice guy, great guy. Unfortunately, his health is not in the best of shape, and he's basically getting, you know, his walking papers from the doctor, you know, and it's pretty heavy stuff. I mean, when the doctor is telling you that you don't have much time left, I mean, it's no fun to hear for Christmas. So, I mean, and I'm hearing this stuff. So, I mean, it's not fun when we all die, but, you know, it's something we have to live through or not. So I did get it right. Andrea Brower was in the movie Glory. So I'm thinking of the same guy. I did not watch Brooklyn 999, but thanks, Scorpions fan, for looking it up. I did not watch All These Wonderful Things that Michael A.J. was pointing out. I wonder... so he was in the Glory and he was in the Mist. Nice... You get the nice Peanuts thing. Snoopy, I have been watching some interesting stuff about, there was a YouTube video I watched. It was really long. It's like an hour and a half. And it was like some guy watched all of the Peanuts specials. And there's like more than we think there is. There's not just 3 or 4. There's like 60 of them. And this poor guy sat through all of them. And he ranked them from the best Peanuts TV special to the worst. And a lot of these I never heard of, but I guess there was a few about baseball and different characters who kind of came and went. Interestingly, in the very first Peanuts illustration ever made by Charles Schulz, I guess going back to the 50s or the 60s, there's a couple of characters who make, you know, who are talking about Charlie Brown. Oh, there goes Charlie Brown. Everybody loves, you know, Charlie Brown, everybody's friend. He's such a good guy. And then Charlie Brown walks past him and they go, I hate that guy. So, but that character who said all that was like, he was only in that once in the Peanut strip, and then he went away for like decades and finally came back. This guy, the Men of Certain Age guy, his name was, I think he was named Michael or something. I'm trying to remember the name of that sitcom. It was on HBO in the early 90s, like Dream On. Is Dream On it? Did I just nail it? Did I just nail it to lacrosse? Merry Christmas. But yeah, the show Dream On was like this guy, like, you know, 35, 40-year-old divorced dad. He's, you know, banging as many chicks as he can. And he has all these flashbacks to his childhood and the black and white movies. So that guy, who I think his name is Michael something or other, he or Tim or one of these names, he did a show, The Men of a Certain Age, but the thing he did on HBO before that was Dream On. Okay, so just for whatever the hell difference it makes, kind of an underrated show. Okay, folks, if you have any last minute comments, gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this up because I want to be able to broadcast this. If you've been seeing all my stuff, I've been, you know, simulcasting and broadcasting and all types of wonderful things. More people need to subscribe to this channel to keep me motivated. So share the link, tell your friends to subscribe, or tell your enemies to subscribe. That might be better. Mikey, I'm mad remake of the Transformers, the movie, the cartoon. Why? Well, money, buddy. You know, you're smart enough, brother. You know this. Just money. That's all it is, because the audience, even if they are pissed that there's going to be more sequels or remakes, most of us will go see it just to shit on it. So, I mean, at some point, buddy, they don't care. They don't care if we don't want it or if we see it and shit on it, but as long as we buy the tickets. But like I said, I do the subscription deals, so I'm a little bit more liberal with my film-going choices because I'm not paying out of pocket per film. I'm paying a monthly fee. So therefore, I have less discernment if I was buying a ticket every single time. Well, gentlemen, I do appreciate you. Scorpios fan, AJ Norris, thanks, guys, for coming out and joining me. I want to end this now. If you're watching this on the rewind, subscribe, join the fun. One Mike Messier YouTube channel for Mike's Instant Movie Reviews. Yeah, go see the Sydney Sweeney thing if you want to see her dance around in a bikini.